morning, everyone. Me. So quite often the talks are saying the same thing over and over again in one way or another, trying to encourage you or any of us to encourage myself for that matter, to take a look at what this is, to work with this insofar as we can by receiving what it is rather than completely always jumping on this or going on this or getting on this train or thinking about this or evaluating and so on constantly. So this morning's talk title is called we don't need to do anything. Although we continue to do this and do that, we go to sleep. Well, we need to go to sleep, but we don't need to do anything. And all that kind of instruction or a suggestion or recommendation, not a direct order, not the military, just saying you could hold your horses a little bit and just not particularly be tied into some kind of responsiveness that has to do with feeling like you need to stop this or start that or push on this or don't do anything. I sometimes say don't do anything unless you have to. It's not all that profound, but it's very direct. We spend so much time this way and that way, not just out here in the world doing this or doing that or not doing that and pulling back. The other kind of not doing is to do it. The other kind of doing something is to refuse to do something that has a natural sequence of events that just time to do that. Of course, it gets quite complicated when we go into things like people who stop eating, in other words, fast, they don't eat or something. There's a different kind of dynamic going on there, different kind of dynamic where someone is jogging or something and doing some very, very definite time consuming and strong energy requirement there. So what are we doing here as meditators? We're trying to be aware of what is showing up, not only out there, as I just mentioned a moment ago, but also within. What's happening in the consciousness? Most of the world is looking out here for right and wrong, up and down, back and forth, should and shouldn't, control and no control, success and failure, and up to and including life and death, and all the stair steps leading to something that's inevitable. So I could say you don't have to die. Do you? Look at death. Look at the ending of anything. See what it is for yourself. Do not get your authority or your validation from anything or anybody. Have a willingness. Not a very long. If you could do it for 20 or 30 years, that might be good. To just observe. And you can practice that by you do not have to join the cult of Buddhism, because in some sense it does become cultish if people start grasping onto what the Buddha taught as some kind of a final word on everything. There is no final word, even in Buddhism. These are meant to help us see. The Buddha's intention, as far as I can tell, was to encourage us to find our true nature, to see what this was, not be totally at the mercy of the karma. We're worried about that, so we're running away. Or we're worried about that and we're killing it or stopping it or fighting it. Or there's just so many ors around. I know I'm not going into the boat image now, so give me a break. Well, that's a lot of fun to use, though. You give me too many oars and I'll roll out of here. So we don't have to do anything. So what is that teaching or that instruction or that talk title or try to address? What I'm trying to address there is be very tentative. Using your sitting practice of meditation, that's a way of deliberately practicing a tentative approach. You sit down. The only thing you need to do is get there. Sit down, hold still, and just anything that arises, receive it, and have a tentative approach or a tentative attitude there where you Whatever shows up, you don't necessarily grasp it, tentative, just tentative. You don't necessarily push it away, it's just tentative. And you don't turn away, distract yourself if you can. And if you do any of those three, if you push, pull, or turn away, passion, aggression, and ignorance, the three poisons, if you do that, you're aware of that. And if a part of your life, your job, your relationship, anything is starting to crack or come apart or have a kind of disturbance that you don't feel responsible for, or another part of the disturbance in your life, your relationship, your job, your social structure, your health is starting to come apart that you feel responsible for, please just be aware if you can. This doesn't mean you don't take some medication. When I say don't have to do anything, I'm also endeavoring to be respectful of what we do have to do. You do need to get some sleep. You do. You need to do that. Do need to rest. You need to, but all the other things. We do need to eat. You do need to call your mom if she's still alive. You do need to do that. Those are not, should I do that? Should I sleep or not? So, but we're not talking about the very natural things about being consciousness, being submerged in a human form, which this consciousness that is part of the human form, a part of it, believes is so real and believes his, her, or their thoughts about the so-called otherness that is out there. There is no out there. It's very convincing, though, that there's an out there. You can use the example I quite often use of a movie. When you watch a movie, it's unreal. It's completely not real at all. I mean, it can be stored in used to be called a cassette. What do they call them now? DVDs, yeah, more initials.
Clouds.
Huh? Cloud? You mean like cloud of generosity? That kind of cloud?
Yunkai.
Yunkai, yes.
Yeah.
So the whole intention here from the point of view of this person who sits up here presuming to be a teacher, but I can't function as a teacher unless you function as a student, in other words, or in the same words, or in similar words. Sokuzan, what do you think about this? Or how about that? Or how about that? So I kind of set myself up, set us up. I reflect on what would be what's a good topic today? Every Saturday night or Sunday morning, it's like, what now? They talk about Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and 12 Links on the Chain of Existence. I'm okay, you're okay. Something, what should I talk about? And I think, didn't you say that? Say that phrase? We don't have to do anything, or did I say that?
You said,
I did?
Hmm.
How do you know? You weren't there.
Hmm.
Well, I did say that, but I said it when it was the title. But last night I said it, and then you said that'd be a good talk title. And what did I say? Finally, we have a talk title. But it is so important to look at, examine, because most of the world, billions and billions of people, are just whatever they think, that's what they do, or whatever they think, that's what they don't do, or whatever they think, that's what they ignore or dismiss, all based on some kind of incredibly rude, staggeringly unreal formation of a me who is against that, or a me who is for that. And you might have so many reasons why behind that I'm doing that. Well, I'm not going to do that anymore. How many times have you heard yourself say that or somebody else say that just to reaffirm your position? Why would we do that? Why wouldn't we, go for a why question, why wouldn't we just not do anything and wait a little while, call patience? Why wouldn't we sit there and wait a little while and see if something that whose trajectory is very slow, it might be as powerful as a a condor. It might have a lot of power. It might be as slow as the what do they call those things that are melting up north because of the global situation? Weather glaciers, so moving slow. You can't see it moving, but it's definitely moving because the water level's getting. You could have that kind of patience. And interestingly enough, that doesn't mean you have to wait for the length of time of a glacier melting. It just means that if you have that kind of attitude, 30 seconds from now, you can see exactly what you need to do. Not what you have to do, but what you just do. You just know because it's here. It's this consciousness. It's this hand. It's this, all these beings here, all presenting as what? Separate aspects of consciousness called human forms. This precious human life, this precious human birth. You can't create this. There is no you. What comes back into birth, if there is such a thing as rebirth or reincarnation, I have no idea. I'm not interested in proof. Why would I even say such a thing? Aren't you interested in proof? No. What I'm interested in is this. And I could say, what's that old thing that everybody says? What more proof do you need? I think that's hilarious. Don't you? No. It's just, what more proof do you need for anything than this? Wake up by seeing the way you sleep. It's very painful. The first noble truth of the Buddha's life is suffering. He was not kidding. And he said this 2,500 years ago, knowing full well what all the people who listened to him and considered what he was saying, what they were going to have to go through, because they had spent countless lifetimes doing the opposite, not listening, just shutting down and acting, shutting down and pushing, shutting down and grasping, shutting down, just going through lifetime after lifetime. And again, I don't have any proof of that. I don't need proof. It's right here. You don't have proof. You want to know what this is? Look right in front of you. Look at the wall, look at the closet door, look at the back of your hand, look at in the face of your spouse, look in the face of your children or of your cat. Look right in their face. Look right in anyone's face. You will see radiating back to you what the Buddha said. Nothing is separate from anything anyway. There never was a separate self in any of the skandhas. There was never a separate being anywhere, but the illusion of separation is incredibly powerful. And it's probably not very comfortable. So what was the name of the talk again?
We don't do anything.
You can't remember it either.
We don't need to do anything.
Should I straighten this up? Isn't it interesting how subtle everything is? It looks like this is wrong. It looks like if you come in and you don't bow like this when you come in the Zendo, instead you bow like this. Will someone correct you here? No, they won't. They might smile, but they wouldn't correct you. Why? Because it's about observing forms. It's not about obeying them. This is so easy to miss because the ego mind, the self-centered mind, the controlling mind, the cult-minded mentality that wants control or to be controlled. And it'll settle for either one. If it can get control, it'll be the father of the family, and it'll control that family. If it can't do that, then the father of that family will be controlled by political leaders, religious leaders, or any other kind of so-called leader. Don't do that. This is the reason you have a teacher, is so you can leave the teacher, not so the teacher can control you the rest of your life. So you can see your true nature and realize there never was a center to anything. And if there's no center, then there's no fringe. Nature of consciousness is without a self, without a center. But you have to see that. Don't believe anything I'm saying. Realize your true nature. Other questions? Yes.
Shoto bowing. Do we need to leave the teacher?
Don't need to do anything. There is no. I didn't realize that that was part of the. People are laughing here. I'm not sure why yet. But they're gonna explain it to me. So why are you laughing? Patrick, why are they laughing?
What is the title of the talk, I guess?
See, he's paying attention. And he was not laughing. Because why weren't you laughing? Not fun. You don't mind if I pick on you a little bit, do you? No, you have a question?
Divine. Can we tell whether our action is coming from awareness or from thinking, from ego?
I think that the initial stages, and when you're training your mind, you're going to get glimpses of that where you see that you just pushed and pulled and shoved around something around that you could have been more respectful because you see that you believe a bunch of stories about that give you kind of temporary authorization from ego to stop that or push on that or leave that, manipulate or do something. So there's some of that. So sometimes it's looking back on it, especially as a meditator. I think it can also happen with someone who just is in their life just trying to be kind and loving and ethical. That's going to show up there. It's just that the fundamental difficulty isn't seen through, which is that there's belief that there's a separate being who can actually be kind or loving or benevolent or ethical. The belief in a separate being is the difficulty there. More?
Divine, that makes me think of contemplating. So, at the end of the day, looking at the actions you took and looking at whether the identity was present or that there was some manipulation going on. Bowing,
What's the question about it?
is that a good practice to reflect on looking at our behavior and looking for
Do
manipulation?
you do that?
I'm not currently doing that other than if it comes up naturally.
So that's the way I would say also. If it comes up naturally, then contemplate that, reflect on it. I remember the first time I actually heard that someone did that as a practice. I think I was in the 10th grade and someone I knew, we were talking about, I don't remember what the topic was. He said, well, every night I kind of review what happened during the day and reflect on it. I remember thinking, I never do that. I never think about what's just happened. And it's always stuck with me that he was working with his mind in a way to try to understand what had happened. He didn't talk so much about responsibility, but just kind of review what happened in his life, of what someone said. And I remember thinking at the time that I never did that at all. But
Divine, is any manipulation not coming out of awareness?
so you can't do anything without awareness. It's just that the singularity called of the persona or ego or narcissism, that part has an agenda about this and about that because it breaks off and accuses parts of its true nature, consciousness, to be over there, to be an enemy, or to be a friend, or to be a helper, or to be something that's not helping.
Divine, so then if we see manipulation in our actions, is that always ego?
Probably it's ego. But what did I just say? What's the title of this talk?
We don't need to do anything.
So if you just happen to, through your practice, or through your contemplation, or through your wish to see your true nature, or see the true nature of reality, or to understand non-duality, or those teachings, if you're already doing that, which you probably are, and you see that there's ego involved, don't do anything. Don't need to do anything about ego. And of course, what does the teaching say? Be aware. Just be aware. Practice. Watch it, whatever's moving, and if something comes towards you, receive. If it goes away, you don't even say let it go. Just observe that it's receding. Don't chase it. Don't make up ideas about why it's leaving. Just keep it as simple as possible without manipulation. So difficult to do as a strategy around it, like I'm just gonna not do this, or I'm not going to do that. It's worse than that, it's better than that. It's worse than that because it's impossible to do as a result or as a conclusion or as a, I no longer meddle with anything. But it's possible that it can happen. The upside of that is it's possible it can just occur just by the understanding of the movement of things. See that what is moving is illusory. You start to see that everything that happens is unreal. And the last movie you watched, the last interaction, emotional interaction you had with a friend or an enemy, or interaction, any kind of emotionally charged situation is there, and it relatively has all kinds of supports and otherness to it, but it's fundamentally unreal. It's just consciousness acting up or acting down or disappearing more.
Oh, Devon, can we understand that things are unreal and yet still be in so much pain that we have to do something?
Yes,
Would that action coming with awareness be out of ego?
it won't matter because ego is unreal. As long as you're looking to stop your action from being out of ego, you actually create the illusion of an ego that you have to control or get rid of. When you don't, you can actually, actually ego can show up all over the place because it's no longer a separate self. It's just another aspect of consciousness. No longer trying to get rid of your ego, overcome your ego, transcend your ego. Some of the conventional teachings that we hear from other teachers and teachings, they're also not wrong. Some people conditionally need to hear that kind of a teaching, apparently, because those kinds of teachers can be quite popular. More. Yes, sir.
Patrick Bowing. I find I'm often questioning recently whether sort of non-action in a difficult situation is truly just observing and allowing the situation to be what it is, or if it's actually a form of avoidance or denial.
The way I understand the question and knowing you a little bit, I would say directly just to you personally, I might work with this differently depending on another person asking a very similar question. And I think I will repeat the question a little bit because I think your voice is quite low. So, what'd you say? Can you remember what he said? Who has a loud voice here?
I could rephrase it more loudly if you like, maybe.
Okay,
Can I
can you hear him
muffle?
talk right now? Okay, good. There,
Okay.
thumbs up.
I'm wondering whether non-action in a difficult life situation is truly just allowing that situation to be what it is, or if it might be some form of avoidance or denial, and how to discern between those.
Mhm. So, and you're a meditator, and so the idea of to work with the relative situation, which are situations in your life coming and going, difficult, challenging. Some are okay, some are very challenging and difficult. True with all of us, and everyone has a different variety of those. And so, and then working as a practicing awareness practice, watching the movement of the mind, and so you can begin to see the fundamental nature of anything that's occurring. I would say the way you're asking the question, I would say that's what you're doing. I would agree with that that's a path quality of what you're doing. So there may not be a result situation, but you're also not stepping off the path to lock down on something. You want to stop something or do something and get a credential for being, for not, a credential for not avoiding. I think you mentioned that. You're aware of it. Painful, of course, painful or difficult or challenging because it's kind of saying in language or some kind of language is saying, gotta stop this. I can't, this is too difficult, too challenging. I have to cover it up. I have to run away. I have to make up things about it or tell stories and the way you're saying it, I would say I don't see anything to do other than continue. Just be aware of that. Just be aware. You know, there's no, doesn't seem to be any standard where you get to a certain point where you realize, oh, now it's time to take action in this way or this way or this way. It's not showing up from listening to the way you talk about it. More about it, if you have something else more specific, perhaps.
Patrick Bowing, I guess. I feel like I just don't really trust myself to know when action is required.
So lack of trust, the downside of lack of trust is just that from the ego point of view, it's you feel helpless, knowing what to do, you feel threatened possibly or in danger because of it's something you're not sure of and you can't trust it, so you tend to keep back away from it. Whereas the upside of that, and we need to teach it, we need to talk in this particular form, is that there's a lot of openness there that aligns itself more with the fundamental teaching of awareness. So there's a willingness to be so aware that you feel threatened by not trusting your what you're looking at, not lack of trust, to use your words, just can't trust it. And I would say that the very lack of trust is the openness that is going to be required for you. Makes us feel very vulnerable to do that. We all feel very vulnerable. And the downside is obviously feel endangered or wrong, or what if we're wrong about this? What if I should have done this or this or this? We tend to start to tell ourselves stories about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, Devine, in those situations, it seems like we could be, I guess the question is, how do we know we're not incurring more pain than we need to? You know,
So the kind of knowing that is usually looked for when we're all wound up in our self-centeredness or in right and wrong or should be or shouldn't be, or those who are correct and those who are incorrect, including ourselves or excluding, and as long as we're picking and choosing and ruminating around in our own mind stream, trying to figure out how to handle this or what would be the right thing to do, we're just going in circles, to use the traditional way of talking about confusion. It's just circular, getting better, getting worse, getting better, getting night and day, night and day. There's examples all over the place of circularity. You don't have to do that. You can actually look directly at whatever shows up. This is situation here, situation here. Just look at it rather than look at some way out of it or some way in to solve it or some way to so it won't be quite so abrasive or uncomfortable. It's not, so far as you come and so far as you can, come back to a word I use all the time, just receive. I would have to say to you all that I'm practicing, I'm going through some things in my own situation, my own mind stream and relationships with others that I'm very close to. It's very challenging and difficult. And I do the best I can to just receive what's happening, even though it doesn't feel so good. To be a living being, even if you're functioning out and encouraging people to do what I'm encouraging you to do, is to look at it. I have no proof. It cheapens the spiritual path to prove anything. There's some of that going on that's cheap because you need to see it. You are nothing but consciousness, except when you're something else. And when you're something else, then that's the illusion. You have a front row seat on reality. They call it your mind. You get to see this yourself. You get to see what the Buddha pointed at 2,500 years ago to all these teenagers he was probably teaching. You get to look at it right here. You can look at it, not here in the rib cage, but right here. Look at this, see what this is. See that this is amazing that you can be here and look out there. And other beings are out there looking over here. And we don't realize the incredible miracle that we're living in the middle of, moment by moment. It's just astonishingly.
Milka bowing. When we see, or when we see we don't need to do anything, is that encouraging spontaneity?
I wouldn't say it that way. That encourages, they don't speak in a, do this and that'll happen. But you could say it somewhat. What it does is that you don't doing anything. So you're sitting here, not doing anything, but you're watching things come and go. And then certain things start to move this way or that way. And then you just, something comes by with its mouth open and you feed it. But you didn't say, hey, get over here. I have some popcorn for you. No, it actually comes over and you find out it's a pigeon. It's that kind of very simple. You just do it. But there's no, I'm so kind, I'm feeding the poor pigeon, or if I can get that pigeon over here, I'll get some street cred for just being okay in the park and all the pigeons will like me. You do, I'm being silly about it, but I just think it's that kind of a thing. Just, if you're just aware, if you're just on receive and you just watch what happens, then that part of the so-called illusion, which it is an illusion that happens as cause and effect, or karma, or praticca samuppada, the causes and conditions that arise out of such incredibly complicated chemistry or mechanics that just shows up, then because you're no longer separating yourself, you're just consciousness only. So therefore, the arms and legs of someone on the other side of the world are yours. And the arms and legs on this side of the world to that consciousness, if they're awake. If they're actually awake, then you're not separate from them. You're also not the same. So it makes it an extremely powerful conundrum that you cannot figure out, calculate.
Yoga bowing today during chanting, my throat caught and kind of skidded almost. It's
I
like,
heard that. I was so embarrassed.
and I
thought, oh my God, Milk has screwed up the chants.
well, in that situation, it's like there's really nothing I can do. It wasn't about needing or wanting or any of that.
I noticed you smiled.
I did smile.
And you smiled, and Shoto was standing here and I was sitting here, and of course, so all three of us smile. So what can you do? You're going along. The intention is to do that particular Sanskrit yodel or whatever it is. At the end of that chant, there's a wavering that's intentional. Can you do that? Say it right now. Can you just do it?
She just
You
did
do
it.
it.
Anaka hanya harmita shingyo o.
Is that right? Is that right? What did you do?
I went, I don't think I
It
can
was
even repeat it.
oh.
It's like I hit a monotone.
Something happened with
Scratchy,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
So what did you have a question about that?
Milka bowing, something like that, where we see that there was nothing to do. Can that be a helpful reference point in a situation where it looks like we have to do something, or there's something we need?
Well, I noticed another thing. So as I'm fairly observant. That's supposed to be funny.
Not a compliment.
I'm fair-
Not a compliment.
Not a compliment. So, well said. But I noticed that you have a very graceful way. The way you were taught to strike the gong, as I was taught 100 years ago. You come around and the striker is just on its way through a trajectory and happens to be interrupted by a gong. It's not your like striking a gong. So you just take it through the air in that general vicinity, and you don't even know exactly when it's going to hit. But that way, it just seemed by doing that, it's more like a dance. It's more musical, more. It sounds good, but I noticed you missed it today. You came by and you went right by, and then then you compensated for that by saying you knew that everyone had to hear a sound at that time, so you came back and then you actually struck it. Everybody following that?
I forgot.
And this all happened. I mean, the only person that joined us today was Ji Sheen. She's here somewhere. But no one, you all could have been here and you could have heard Miyoko screw things up. You missed it. And you could have seen how gracefully he recovered from coming around and missing. It's really easy to swing. You have this huge gong, and of course you're going to hit it, but you go right over the top of it. You must be missing it by 32nd of an inch. But have you noticed if you close only, what is it? What game is it? And horseshoes works for that. How about golf? Close at work is good enough. Marbles.
Grenades.
Grenades. Yeah, grenades, explosives, good enough. I like that. Anything else in here before I go to anyone, any other questions in here? Before we
I've
go?
also heard government work. It's horseshoes and government work.
Oh, horseshoes and government work, they're close enough is good enough. Yeah, I worked for the government for 4 years, so I know what it's like to be a government worker. That's the Ronald Reagan's pronunciation of the word government was government. Government, working for the government. Okay, the only hands I see up there are, looks like James, you have a, I'll come back to you in a moment, Naveed. Go ahead, James.
James Bowing, how do you understand reactive abuse where you know somebody's trying to essentially cause harm to you by invoking the reaction, even going so far as causing you to potentially die from it?
That's a very good question, James. Thank you so much for that. And I would say that if you're operating out of standards or if right and wrong or should be and shouldn't be, then it's very tempting to just get in a war with them and stop them or fight them or be rude to them or physically stop them mentally or criticize them or do something like that. That's the aggressive part, passion, aggression, and ignorance. The other one would be to run away, which is ignoring, just get out of there, which you might have to do. And there's a teaching called the four karmas, which are pacifying, enrich, magnetizing, and destroy, which give you a little bit of a structure for it. You still have to be responsible for what you're doing. You can't just apply a standard and be right. It's still pacify. You can calm a person's doing that. You might start out by pacifying in this way. I see what you're saying there, George, but I don't necessarily agree with you. But I can see why you might get to that kind of activity where you're being, might not even say, you might not describe their action as abusive. They're probably already gonna know that. Then the other one, pacify and enrich, magnetize. So enrich, you might add to it a little bit if you have the skill. You probably won't have the skill to do the last three. Unless you have a strong awareness practice, because those come very close to ego material, wanting to be the winner. So you have to do this with respect to people's confusion. You can't help anybody if you don't respect their confusion. And there's no guarantee that if you respect their confusion, that their interest in the truth will be strong enough to help them not go to war with the very comment or teaching, for that matter, that you're saying. They might fight with it. And so there's no correct way. The most important way, I think, of everything that I'm saying there, pacify, enrich, magnetizing, and destroy. The other destroying kind of thing is just to leave. Just say, see you later. I don't want to talk about that. Go ahead, sir.
All right. I was thinking like somebody that skips town, pays someone to burn down your house, and jawbones your employer to fire you. That type of thing where you have to react to it, but you can't because you can't find them since they left town.
Well, it's a difficult, there's no standard for that. That's the landslide that started in another area of time when they invented matches, or in another area of time when the tornado hadn't hit this part of the land that turned this into that and caused this, and then suddenly you have mountains that come apart and you have landslides. So the causes and conditions are extremely hidden. There's no first cause. But ego, self-centeredness, it sees first cause all the time and is convinced that the whole world is that first cause is in other words, proof that something happened. I mean, this is an insane and childish way of working with reality. The only sophisticated and intelligent and confident, wise way of working with reality is to receive it instead of saying, well, this moved through the air and hit that, therefore you're a murderer. No. That's untrue. That's very, very, it's not only childish, it's harmful to accuse anyone of anything. Though this person coming to you with this kind of production where they're going to burn your house down or hurt you or something, you're just going to have to deal with it the best you can with the causes and conditions that are arising in your reactive mind, because they probably are. Naveed, go ahead.
Navid Bowing.
Yes.
Does the necessity to do something about the things in our mind comes from the ego? Well,
I don't know if I would say it, say that definitely, but probably some kind of area of protection or worry or paranoia. Uh, Probably ego, probably the consciousness is has a kind of a bundle or a kind of a fist in the somewhere in the mind stream that is not that's protecting an artificial, unreal person who is not threatened. This doesn't mean that our physical form isn't threatened by somebody, but you are not your physical form. You are consciousness, and you have no location in time or space. And the only way if you want some proof, die. You can die while you're physical form, or you can die to this world while you are actually living as a human being. You can see the reality that which is unreal is born, birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. But that which is real is can't be destroyed because it has not come into it has not stepped into the illusion. So it's ego, but it's only about, as you've heard me say, Naveed, it's about just being aware of the ego, see it, watching it come and go and dance around until eventually, over time, from observing that through the practice of meditation as a living form, as a human being, you eventually see that it's, no matter how intense it gets or how much it hurts, you're not going to you're no longer buying into the reality of that. You see that it's unreal. It takes quite a bit of time. Go ahead, sir. Naveed.
David Bowing, when you say you don't need to do anything about it, it gives me some kind of relief. I'm wondering, why does it feel like some kind of necessity to do something always? Is kind of like wanting to know and not knowing on the other hand?
It seems to be connected with feeling there's something you don't understand and you don't know, and you have to grasp, you have to get there, you have to work, and you have to apply yourself to get in there and dig it out so that you can find there's something in there that you need to get to. And I just recently have a book coming out called Addiction Awareness Meditation, which is at the printer right now, basically, I think, isn't it? More or less. So that's coming out, and that has an image in it of a cave. It's just that I drew. It's a really dark, and the page is just a black and white line drawing, and it's a dark, just a dark hole in some rocks, a cave. And I think the title of that chapter is, what is the chapter?
There's some treasure in there.
Yeah.
What if there's a treasure in there?
Yeah, what if there's a treasure in there? So, this causes us to dig away and search and search and search, when actually what we really need, or what we're looking for, we're looking at. You don't have to dig. You might have to sit down, hold still, and just let it come towards you. You don't have to dig after it. And if you try to dig, then it's not that you might not find some interesting things, but they're all connected and they're dependently arisen, and you could say they won't result in, or they won't uncover your true nature, which is consciousness. It's just consciousness only. Something that has no word. Even the word consciousness is extra. The word consciousness, if you cling to it or believe in it or write books about it, there's a good chance that there'll be enough glue there that it'll actually stop you from seeing what that is. And if you see what it is, you won't know what it is, and you won't see anything. Consciousness can't see itself. All it can see is this. And what is this? Consciousness. In the form of an illusion.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Wasn't that interesting the way I avoided answering his question? Is there another question? Any question in here? Yes, go ahead, please.
Shoto bowing. Is there a difference between the threats that are to our physical form and the threats that are to our beliefs and opinions?
I think there's quite a bit of difference. physical, I mean, there are differences that are tied in with this and, you know, being in a burning house or having someone trying to rob you or threaten you some way, and then doing it in an emotional way or, you know, criticizing your activity, saying you're wrong, you're unethical, or you're confused, or you're a liar, or in a more emotional, psychological, or that way. Is that what you're asking about?
Shadow bowing, I'm kind of the area I'm curious about, or seems to be difficult, is someone who's experiencing a threat to their opinion might experientially be just as intense or believable as a threat for their life. And you can't really tell them that that's not what's happening.
That's could be. There's no way to work with any of that other than just be respectful if you can of people's confusion rather than try to correct people. Even a person who functions as a teacher has permission, but the permission is based on what that person, that so-called student, thinks that a teacher-student situation is about. And if they're functioning from a materialistic point of view, then it may have a great deal of difficulty receiving, pointing out instruction from a teacher who teaches out of consciousness only, because it may look just as concrete and relative as right and wrong, should be and shouldn't be, and ethical and unethical, life and death, and all the other polarities. They might still be dealing with that. If they believe in those, then those are going to be very difficult. It's very difficult. It's hard to just not know. Ego doesn't like that. It wants some kind of proof or result, or needs to see, here's the situation, here's all the proof we have. We don't have much. We have a 2,500-year-old tradition that is taught in countless kind of ways, all coming from the original inspiration of the Buddha. And you can go back and read what we think are his words. It sounds like they are words of someone who is very wise. But then people take different tangents off from that, some of them being very, you could say, to use the conventional polarized description in our cultures, right wing or left wing. They're very open and liberal and receiving and just kind of going with the flow, so to speak. And the other ones is very tightened up and you need to obey and you need to follow this form. You need to be ethical and need to.
Shadow bowing, it seems like, at least my perception, they're like culturally, we've even been encouraged to basically not work with a situation like innocent until proven guilty. It's no, whoever is complaining, you have to give, it's like you have to believe them until you prove that it didn't happen.
That's odd, isn't it? I don't know what you're saying. Anything about that?
It's just hard to work with that when we might be in a situation that just doesn't look like that to us.
I don't know. The only thing that shows up for me is for those of you who are still here or on the screen or listening to what I have to say. I'm not telling you much. I'm not telling you send me money, although I need help. But that's obvious, should be obvious. I'm not, but I'm not giving you orders. I'm functioning as a Buddhist monk because I'm aligned with my teacher, two of my teachers, Tibetan and Japanese were Zen monks, and they taught me and encouraged me to look at my mind, and I've been doing it for a long time, and it started to arise that I might be able to encourage others to do the same thing without any proof. It's hard to teach somebody something if you're, well, do this and you'll get that, do this and you'll get a PhD, do this and you'll get this kind of understanding. And there's lots of materialistic, psychological, and probably even spiritual approaches that would work that way. But the only thing I can say is find out who you are. Don't let that temporary identity called Jim or Mary or Ed or to maybe a Buddhist name that you have. Don't let that go unexamined. Go and look and see, who is that? Who am I? The Ramana Maharshi, the famous well-known Indian sage of the previous century, Ramana. The practice he taught to his students was Hindu tradition or Advaita. Non-dual tradition was go within, Atma Vichara, self-inquiry. Who is this? We're doing something similar when you sit down, hold still for hours on end and watch the movement. Very similar. You could go into identity and you can do that, but the way it looks over here, you don't even have to do it deliberately. Just watch the identity is already there, imaginary or otherwise. And so it's a very soft, gentle approach in Shikantaza. Sit down, sit symmetrical, observe. And that's how it's done. That's living in enlightenment. It just won't feel like it. You will not have any proof. You have proof, it's probably not enlightenment. It's probably some kind of a state of mind that some people might even be teaching that you need to get to so that you'll be protected from the chaos of the world because you'll be in some kind of temporary enlightenment. More.
Shadow bowing. Have you seen, or are there times where meeting someone where they're at isn't helpful?
It's never helpful. Makes a mess of everything. That's my job. So far, so good. Is that what you wanted to know, or do you have another inquisition somewhere else?
Shadow bowing. Something like, are there people who, just because of the relative chemistry, that we're not a good candidate to meet that person where they're at?
To say they're not a good candidate is, of course, to take the relative approach of should be and shouldn't be, and successful, not successful, and authorized, not authorized, and a good candidate or not a good candidate. So that's all spiritual materialism. It's not that that doesn't apply relatively, of course, but the very application of it and the relative just reinforces what the whole world is believing, that you can do things right. And if you don't do them right, then you're probably doing them wrong. Right back to just like the whole corporate situation and a corporation operates out of relative truth, powerful. And that is a way to operate to protect your greed and to protect your aspiration to accomplish certain things that are based on control. Not wrong. There's relative truth is very powerful there. More.
Shadow bowing. Is there any truth in maybe seeing that we don't have the resources to help someone where they're at? Something like that.
What is it you want to know? I heard your question, but I want you to simplify that if you would.
I think it's like what you're saying, where my experience of certain people we've tried to help out looks like it just was us being punched in the face for a year or two straight, and that's all that happened.
Yeah, it's just suffering. People are suffering. People suffer in different ways, and different things show up and go away and come back and go in circles, and we just do the best we can. Yes.
Shadow bowing. So it's a bit of spiritual materialism on my end to try to not help those people.
Yeah, you don't do anything with it. What was the title of the talk?
We don't need to do anything.
And so that means out there, and then you don't have to do anything, whatever rises here, just observe. And if it's really difficult to observe, you'll notice that one of the things that when something gets emotionally challenging or some kind of memory, it might not have anything to do with what's happening now, something that's going to happen 2 days from now, suddenly we feel put upon by a situation or whatever, insofar as you can, just receive it, because it's dependently arisen. It will actually, it's like, what is that image for the fairy tale where they're going through the woods and they want to leave a trail so they know how to get back. They leave breadcrumbs. They leave a trail that can be eaten. It's not a good idea with cats around or mice, another dangerous trail eater. So don't leave a trail, because to leave a trail, to try to think back through something is to use something that's very, very effective relatively. Logic, reason, it all works fine as long as we believe the illusion. That's why people are actually able to look at the illusion, use aspects of the illusion to create helicopters and And smartphones are, but this is not, even AI is not going to get to consciousness only. Because everything rises in consciousness only. Consciousness only temporarily arises in a smartphone or in a helicopter. And it does it in a relative way, quite an interesting dance. But it has no solidity or objectivity as a thing. If you think that if you fall for that at all, you're suddenly looking for levers and buttons. You want control of everything. Go ahead.
Shadow bowing. So is it more about the receiving even over the help?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Just receive. Painful. Painful here. I'm speaking for. I'm just painful for this consciousness here, this person. Painful, but that's the only thing we can do. You cannot change it or do anything with it or control it or stop it or change the volume of it. It's independently arisen, so it's coming at us from you can't source any of that. You can't find the first cause of anything. Can't find the first cause. And if you could, and if you started operating on what you thought was the first cause, it would just, I could say this in a critical sort of way, it'd probably make things worse. Might make things better, but it wouldn't last. So receive the path. There's ground is suffering. The path is be aware, or train your mind to see clearly what's in front of you and what's inside of you. This and this and this are not separate. That takes a while to see that. Practice. Sit still, watch the movement. And then eventually, and this is the realization or the fruition of that, is there's nothing left to receive. There is no practice. There's no receiver. There's just this. And it depending on the life that is still here as a physical form, whether it's this one or anyone here sitting, it can show up so many different ways. There is no right way for this to appear. You may be full of causes and conditions that you're going to have to live out, called karma, the rest of your life, because they're dependently risen. But there's not, I would say it this way, to put it very bluntly, don't take it so personal. But if you do take it personal, then don't take that personal. So it's always backing up a quarter of an inch into awareness of what this is. Be very respectful to the confusion, everyone else's confusion, and of course your own confusion. Have a willingness to be confused on behalf of others, because most people are blaming, fighting, ripping each other apart, try to keep from being to blame for anything, trying to shovel it off on somebody else. Blame, aggression, resentment, revenge. That's the other big one. I just gave a talk on that recently. Hard to receive. Yes.
Shadow bowing. Is my job as a monk fundamentally about the receiving, even over training people to meditate or talk about Buddhism?
We do that too. Do both. You're going to be doing some production, train people when to strike the gong. If they come in here and they ask about forms in the monastery that are being observed, not obeyed, observed. Nobody obeys anything here. There are people here that live here that are not here today. And they're not, nobody chases them down and you're wrong, you should be here. We trust them and we respect whatever it is they're going through. But to come back to your question, yes, you might find yourself responding in different ways out of instructing someone. But basically, as I said, ground, path, and fruition. Ground is the suffering. The path is awareness in all the different ways that can show up, whether it's chanting the sutras or prostrating or bowing to one another or bowing to oneself, and sitting down, holding still and watching the movement of the mind. This is all awareness, and receiving. And at some point, or it won't even be a point, because the whole idea of a point is reinforcing relative truth, and it's untrue. So there won't be a point. It will be like you've always known this. If you awaken to your true nature, you'll have no questions for me. You will never come here. Well, you might. It's unlikely. So the ground is the suffering. The path is awareness. And the fruition is nothing happens. Nothing happened. Nothing ever existed, nor did it non-exist. I'm using concepts to point at something that I'm just encouraging you to see this. I don't see anything. What I see is, but I see that it's unreal. So I might as well be looking at it at, a toothpaste commercial. It's unreal. It's unreal. You don't have to be chained by your thought patterns. And how do you do that? Just watch them come and go. Don't grasp, don't reject. Don't grab onto anything. Don't reject anything. Don't ignore anything. Be genuine. Be here. Be present. Uh, don't do anything unless you have to. No, that wasn't it. It was, what was the other one?
We don't need to do anything.
That's it. Okay, you don't need to do anything. Just a final reminder. But there might be a whole lot of things that you absolutely have to do. James, you make it a short question, I'll take it. Otherwise, we're going to close it. It's got to be a really short question where I can say something like probably. Actually,
James Dowling,
it's actually pronounced probably, but not probably.
sorry. Do animals understand anything other than violence?
Yes, they understand love. Absolutely. Totally, relatively, yes. And different animals have different
Or
jobs. There's some animals have the job of being mean, ferocious, and growing big, long teeth. But they have children.
are, con-
Yeah, yes, they have children.
are confused people like animals then?
Pardon me?
Are confused people like animals where you at first you think they only understand violence?
You know, perhaps if it's helpful for you to think about it that way, I suppose you could. But I think humans are animalistic in some ways, but generally speaking, even though there's a lot of confusion, there's a powerful consciousness happening there where they can envision an aspect of the illusion that creates more illusion, like a past and a future, and that there's a distance between here and Vermont. Very good. Thank you so much.